So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all of us are well, wherever we are, and relaxing after a long day at work. I know it means different things in the evening. Some are probably in the middle of cooking, others are just having coffee. Whatever it means for you, we are glad to have you this evening as a group of healthcare workers. As many of you would know, those who've been joining us, these meetings have been ongoing for the last several months, and we are happy to say that we have managed to keep having attendees continue to join us, and we really appreciate your time, and we hope that you're getting mentally healthy as we go along and you're learning new things. So this evening, we hope to discuss one very interesting topic that is close to many people. I know all of us own a phone or something that sometimes keeps you engaged. And I hope this day we can learn how these platforms that we often engage ourselves in can be of use or they can be harmful to our health. And we'll be sharing who our speaker is as we go along. So just to start us off, it's good to remind us. So my name is Dr. Edith Koba. I'm a psychiatrist and head of mental health at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, Eldoret, where I'm calling from. And we often have a panel, a group of panelists who are mainly the organizers and people who have been helping to make sure that these webinars continue. And this evening we have representatives from Kenya Psychiatric Association, from CPAC, that is Clinical Psychologists Association of Kenya. We have Kenya Medical Association, and we are hoping that the clinical officers and nursing officers associations will also be joining us. So it's home for all of us as healthcare workers. And as we wait for a few more people to attend, I'd like to invite Yvonne Orlando, representing the Clinical Psychologists Association. She's a member of it. Just say something to welcome members to our meeting tonight.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. From CPAC, we are welcoming members and we are ready to support you in any areas of mental health. Any psychological support services, we are ready. Just find us online. Sometimes we also offer pro bono services. Karibuni sana.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. And it's good to keep reminding our members, you know, many people are afraid to seek psychological counseling, yeah? They are afraid that they'll be stigmatized. But as we go along, we want to keep encouraging us that it's okay. The same way you go for breast examination or just to test whether your sugar is okay, we actually go encouraging people to be able to seek care even when things are not totally terrible. And we need to prevent, because sometimes it could be a small issue that's bothering you, but before you know it becomes a bigger issue. And next, I'll invite Catherine Gitao from Kenya Psychiatric Association to say something to us.
Okay, good evening. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Koba. I just want to say thank you for organizing this, and as KPA, we are really happy to be part of this process where we are providing these webinars, and we trust and believe that they have been helpful to each and every one. Today's topic is quite important because during this COVID-19 time, we have been exposed to more social media than maybe we would normally have been. So with this increase in use of social media, it has been seen that even for some people, they are being more prone to mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, just from this exposure. So I look forward to hearing more and probably learning about how we can manage our social media use. And so I'm really happy and looking forward to hearing from our presenter today. So karibuni sana, and thank you, Dr. Koba.
Thank you very much, Dr. Catherine, representing Kenya Psychiatric Association. For the first time, we have had an opportunity to demystify psychiatry. You know, many people, when they are referring people to psychiatrists, they say, and don't say you are a psychiatrist. They want you to hide. But I hope everyone can see that psychiatrists are normal human beings. We are not confused as some people would imagine, and that it's okay to see us. And we hope that you are encouraged to keep seeing psychiatrists. Then we have Diana Marion, representing Kenya Medical Association, the mother organization of many doctors. And actually, they are the main hosts because we have been writing under the Physician Wellness Program of Kenya Medical Association. Diana Marion, welcome members, just before we invite the speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Koba. Thank you, team. I'm proud to be in this meeting, and I'm actually proud of the ongoing webinars. They have been helpful to majority of us as medical and healthcare practitioners. I was actually quite interested with this particular topic, that is social media and mental health. And one of the things that we've come to realize, especially as healthcare practitioners, is that social media can actually make and break us as individuals, as human beings, as people who do the practice. And I'm really, really interested to hear what our presenter has for us today. And I am willing to learn a lot of things from this. Asante sana. Thank you for everyone who is attending this meeting. Let's all learn together. Karibu sana. Jacqueline Anundo, asante for being the one who is going to really educate us and make us learn more. Thank you. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Diana Marion. She's a member of the Executive Committee of Kenya Medical Association. And other members who we would have wished to have is the nursing fraternity, the clinic officers, but they're here together with us, and I'm sure they could give input later on. So Jacqueline Anundo, I invite you to start sharing your screen as I begin to introduce her. Jacqueline Anundo, who is going to be our speaker for tonight, is a clinical psychologist and training and research manager at Chiromo Mental Health Hospital. I'm sure many of us know Chiromo Mental Health Hospital, one of the leading private mental health hospitals in Kenya. She has a master's in clinical psychology from University of Nairobi, a certified addiction therapist. So she just doesn't see general patients, but she also takes care of even patients with addiction issues. Currently pursuing her PhD. She wants her head to be damaged very soon at Desa University, and we wish you well with that. Her interest in research has led to publish in 3 journals, and still working on more. And her hobbies include trying out different recipes, swimming, athletics, and traveling. Jacqueline Anundo, the floor is yours. We look forward to learning about social media and mental health. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Dr. Koba. I'm hoping that my head will not be damaged. I hope that I'll come out alive and well after the studies. So let me just share my screen once more. So good evening, everyone. Indeed, it's a great pleasure to be your presenter today. I don't take it for granted that you've taken your time to be present today. And I'm hoping that together we are going to learn something different. We are going to learn from each other, not just from me, but I'm also going to learn from you. Let me start my presentation by telling a short story. A story is told about this Mzee. He's called Mzee Sidi. Mzee Sidi went to a technician to have his phone checked because his phone had not rung for many days, many weeks. And he kept wondering what was wrong with the phone. The technician checked the phone and told him that, Mzee, your phone is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. So the Mzee asked, so why doesn't it ring? Why is it that my children, my people don't call me? And I think as we go on with this presentation, let's find out if this presentation presents an answer to why the city is not being called. Probably we as his children, we are quite busy, as we all know, but busy doing what? Let us see whether my presentation will provide answers to why the city's phone has not been ringing. So basically, my topic is about social media and mental health. So we are going to be looking at how it's impacting on mental health. I'm sorry, my slide doesn't seem to be moving.
Why are you using the arrow keys, Doc?
Let me try again. Okay, can I stop sharing and start again? Probably it's going to move.
Yeah, you can.
I'm sorry, dear participants, just give me a few minutes to try and sort this out.
That's totally okay, Jackie. As you go on, you know, the other day I was thinking about the amount of time we spend on social media, and it's so much that if we are to convert it to money, we'll probably be millionaires, many of us. And I know a number of us would be struggling. I remember I was trying to get my head damaged recently, but I realized every so often I would, after doing some write-up of a paragraph, I check whether I have missed something on social media, and I discovered it's actually a disease. I was very impressed recently to see a proposal where a student is actually proposing to establish the prevalence of fear of missing out and problematic phone use. I'm really excited, and I hope we can read about it, because truly it's taking so long, and we are spending so much time that would be used for other things. So I'm looking forward to hearing how I can avoid in future. Sometimes I'd even change my internet so that I don't have my phone nearby, because that's the only way I'd survive. Otherwise, every time it beeps, the temptation is to check what has gone in. I don't know whether you're able to move it now, we see.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to move it, so I'd like to send it to Peter.
Yes, please send it to Peter.
So that Peter can, yeah, okay.
Yes,
and
as you said,
you can also try to use the arrow keys, the arrows. Instead of using your mouse, you use the top and bottom arrows on the right side corner of your laptop.
Actually, that's what
it's
I've
not
tried.
working.
Let me try again and see whether it's going to work. Technology, unfortunately, it only disappoints when you really need it. So let me just share it with Peter. Kindly give me a few minutes.
That's not a problem. And as you do that, Liz Kaimba, you are most welcome. You can say something, especially as the chair of CPAC. I know that Yvonne Orlando had already represented, but you can share with us something as we wait for her to share. Liz Kaimba.
Yes, thank you, Sana, Dr. Koba. Nice seeing you all. Well, this is a very great topic, and I'm very happy Jackie is doing it for us today. I also know, I know personally that sometimes you are in the middle of something and you decide to check a Facebook message, or a message pops up, and by the time you look up again, it is 20 minutes later and something has suffered, you know. Or especially around our children and our adolescents. Right now, we are really, really having problems. I see a lot of these kind of cases in my clinic. And you find children don't even want to attend their Zoom classes without their phones near them. And of course, that Zoom class will suffer. Or when you leave them unattended, they can access Instagram, or they connect their WhatsApp to their laptop, and so you think your child is on Zoom attending a class, and they are not. So we can see how social media affects us negatively across the board, right from childhood all the way coming up into ourselves as adults. And one of the toughest things that I personally promised myself is I'm going to take a social media break. I'm still trying to gather the courage to do that, where I don't, I'm not friends with my Facebook or my Instagram or any of the other things. But I don't know. I was watching something on Netflix where they were talking about the impact of social media on us and on our mental health and on, you know, all sorts of things. And it really just continues to shock, you know, how much social media has impacted us to the point where we cannot kind of think on our own. Is Jackie on yet?
I hope when she's on, she's going to we are going to see the slides on. So we are hoping for people to keep going.
To put them up, okay. Well, yeah, so social media really, its impacts can be positive. Of course, we know it keeps us together, but also in the same breath, it keeps us so apart. And you find a lot of people actually do develop mental health issues because social media cheats you that you have seen your mother or you have seen your sister who lives in the same town as you. But when you really think about it, maybe you haven't seen them in months or weeks, and you don't know, I mean, you lose the connection with each other, that face-to-face, one-on-one touch. And this can actually, of course, bring with it its own problems. Now, I don't want to preempt Jackie in her presentation, but let's see what she has to say and what she will teach us and how we will then make changes to our lives. And the screen has started sharing, so I'm out.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Liz, for that insight. Thank you, Dr. Koba. Indeed, all that you have said is true. So let's see how much more we can be able to get from this presentation. Next slide, Peter. So this is just basically to talk about the different platforms that there are in social media. This list is not exhaustive, but for just purposes of the participants understanding this presentation, it would be important to just highlight some of these social media platforms. So some of us are in all, some of us are in one or two. So basically you'll be able to identify where you lie. For Twitter, basically just it allows registered members to broadcast short posts, which are called tweets. That's why anytime, even when a program is going on, they keep telling you, keep tweeting, keep tweeting. Yeah. Facebook, on the other hand, is a social network site that makes it easy for you to connect and share with family and friends online. Instagram, on the other hand, is a free photo and video sharing app. It's available on Apple, Android, and even Windows phone. People can upload photos here, videos, and share them with their followers or select a group of friends to share them with. YouTube, on the other hand, this is an American online video sharing platform, and you're able to watch various videos, whether you're watching, you're being taught how to cook, how to exercise, and very many other things. LinkedIn also is a social network that focuses on professional networking and career development. Then we have Snapchat. Snapchat is an American multimedia messaging app that was developed by Snap Incorporation. And one of the principal features of Snapchat is that pictures and messages are usually only available for a short time before they become inaccessible to their recipients. That's why those who are on Snapchat, those who are on Twitter, they keep on tweeting, they keep on sending messages because these things are only available for a short period of time. Then you also have Pinterest, which is a visual discovery engine for finding ideas. You can get very nice pictures from Pinterest. You can get recipes. You can get, pictures of gardens, pictures of flowers, and many more things. Next slide. So basically, those are the social media platforms that we have. But remember, I've said the list is not exhaustive. There are many, many more, and I think even more are being developed. So what is the usage on Facebook? If you look at demographics, I found that 75% of females use Facebook as compared to 63% of male. And if you look at the age group, 30 to 49, 18 to 29 are the age groups that mostly use Facebook as compared to the other age groups. Next slide. When it comes to Instagram, again, females use more of Instagram than males. And you can see the age group 13 to 17, followed by 18 to 29 years. They're more, their choice of social media platform is Instagram as compared to the other age groups. Next slide. What about Twitter? You will notice that males prefer Twitter as compared to females. And do you know why? It's because Twitter requires short messaging. For us ladies, we are wordy. We want to say many things, and therefore, that's why you're seeing many of us are in Facebook, are in sites that require us to really post a lot, say a lot of things. So basically on Twitter, you find that females are less as compared to the males. And the age group that is mostly on Twitter is 18 to 29 years. When it comes to Pinterest, again, the females here lead by 42% as compared to 15% of males, because females like things that are aesthetically beautiful, pictures, you know, getting nice photos of cakes, of flowers, of gardens, of various things. So the females are more predominant in this site, and the age group is 18 to 29, and then 30 to 49 years. So from 18 to 49 years of age, they are more predominantly on this site. Next slide. What about YouTube? YouTube now, as compared to Twitter, you find many males, more males prefer YouTube as compared to females. And you can see from the age group, 18 to 49 years prefer using YouTube because of the videos that they can be able to download, be it music, be it whatever it is that the person is looking for on social media. Next slide. So that was just an introduction of the sites that are available for us to use. And you've seen from the statistics, the preference based on gender and even based on age. So I think, dear participant, based on that, on the statistics, you can place yourself, or you can understand why you are in a particular social media platform and not the other. So let's look at healthy social use. It's important to be able to use these platforms adequately or positively, because they're supposed to impact on you. And for the site to be able to impact on you, you have to schedule the social media time. Yeah? If you find that you're on social media throughout, then it means that you're not using it adequately. Then it's important also to be purposeful in reasons for accessing social media. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Snapchat, if you're on Instagram, why are you there? Are you there just for the sake of it, or what exactly is driving you towards that particular site? Then we have use posts as inspiration rather than comparison. So it's important to use these sites to get inspiration rather than comparison. Comparison means that you want to compare yourself with somebody else. You want to compare where you live, where you go, where you work, what you see other people posting, yeah? And such comparisons can affect you either positively or negatively, as we look at as you continue the presentation. It's also important to think before you post. Sometimes you may be angry, and then you read a post, and that person may have attacked you in that post. So if you respond also, when you're going through such emotions, you might write something that you may regret later. But remember, the moment it's out, even if you delete it, already people have read it. Yeah. So sometimes taking it back, even if you pull it down, may be a problem. But we'll look at that further as we go on with the presentation. Then it's also important to put your mental health first. Yeah. At the time when you're going to these particular sites, where are your emotions? How are your emotions at that particular time? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you bored? Are you looking for something in particular? So it's important to try and put your mental health first. And we'll be looking at that as we continue with the presentation. Next slide. So let's look at some of the effects of social media on children. So researchers have observed that have observed bad effects on social media on the mental health of children. And one such finding suggests that children spending more than 3 hours a day on social media are twice as likely to suffer from poor mental health. So their immersion in a virtual world delays very many things in their lives. It delays their emotional and even their social development. Remember, it weighs heavily on them. It may include weight status. There are children who may watch something or may get some information on social media and they start seeing themselves differently. Yeah, we have nowadays children as young as 8 years who want to start dieting. So you ask yourself, why would a child of 8 years want to start dieting? How do they see themselves? How do they view themselves? Probably it's because of information that they have received from social media. Sexual initiation, there are a lot of sexual content in social media. Children may not know the difference between good and bad. Children may be curious, just the way adults are. Yeah, and they may not know that this thing that they are watching is something that is wrong. And therefore it may initiate them into sexual activities quite early because they want to practice what they have been seeing or reading about. Then there's the issue of aggressive feelings. You may find your child trying to practice aggressiveness towards other children because that is what they see. This child knows that if somebody wrongs you, you're supposed to punch this person because that's what they have seen. Yeah, you're supposed to abuse this person. Yeah, it also impacts heavily on their beliefs because remember, children learn by imitation, children learn by seeing, children learn by hearing. So whatever they hear, whatever they see may impact also on their beliefs. They may also develop deviant behaviors. Yeah, they may also, what they consume may be something that maybe the parents don't know or are unable to control. So it's important for parents to watch out on what children are actually consuming. It could also lead to social isolation, yeah, especially for a child who now starts looking at himself or herself negatively. They may think that they are different and therefore they are not good and they're supposed to keep to themselves. So it may lead to social isolation. There could also be poor concentration in class and even fantasizing because when the teacher is teaching, they'll be thinking about whatever it is that they watched or they read about in social media. And sometimes also when it comes to fantasy, we know there's a developmental age where children fantasize a lot, but social media may even increase that fantasy to very high levels. And the child may even start seeing herself as a princess and wants to behave like a princess. And when the child is behaving like a princess towards, in front of the other children, they may start teasing her and tell her, oh, you're not a princess, stop behaving like that. But you see, she's behaving according to what she has seen in social media. And that can impact on her. Why is it that you have a problem with me behaving like a princess, yet I think I'm a princess? And some of us parents also call them my princess, you know? So what they see in social media, what they read about in social media may make them behave as if that is the real life. But when they come to face the real world, the other children may mock them, may start bullying them, and this may lead to a lot of mental health issues. Social media also has the potential for positive effects. So it's not just the negative that I've talked about. There are also some positive effects that it can bring on the child's health. Children nowadays do research. They are given assignments where they're supposed to do research, and they're able to get some of these materials by using social media. There are children who have learned various things using social media. I know of a child who has learned how to do gymnastics using social media. Yet this is a child who has never stepped into a gymnastic class. There's also a child I know who has learned to do ballerina. So you find that social media also has a way of impacting on children positively. Next slide. When it comes to relationships, social media has an effect on relationships, and studies have reported that 60% of people using social media reported that it has impacted their self-esteem in a negative way, either because they're spending too much time on it, or they're looking at sites that impact them in a negative way. 50% reported social media having negative effects also on their relationships, because you find that if spouses, each person is on their phone most of the time, they have no time to talk to each other. They have no time even to see the emotions or the feelings in the other person, because they never look at each other. They are always on their phones. So they miss that emotional connection in the relationship. And within no time, there's a wall that has been built in that relationship. And you find that they no longer see things in the same way. If one person sees things this way, the other one is the other way. And then also they start becoming secretive. They put passwords, you put password on your call history, you put password on your messages, you put password on each and every item on your phone, such that your partner may not be able to access it. And those are the things that now tend to bring in a lot of misgivings in relationships. 80% reported that it's easy to deceive others through their social posting. There's some photos that you look at and you wonder, is this a human being? This is like, this is someone who was created with special care. But sometimes you find that it's because of those, special effects that somebody puts on the photo that makes them appear differently. Some people also post as if they're not where they are. The posting may depict them as being even out of the country, yet they're in the country. So social media has a way of also deceiving others. And sometimes people can tell these lies for so long, such that it becomes difficult in the end to even defend a lie. So what do? They tend to isolate themselves, because now people have discovered that all along you've been posting that you live in Dubai, but you've come to realize that you're not even in Dubai. Actually, you've never even been to Dubai. Or you're posting yourself, in different vehicles, in different hotels, yet this is not who you are. So you find that sometimes this tends to deceive the other parties, and by the time they come to discover, then it wrecks the relationship. Next slide. What are some of the problematic usage of social media? So for you to determine that you have become dependent on social media, there are various things that are looked at. For example, we have mood swings. So you find that people use social media to regulate their mood, or as a means of escaping the real world. You don't want to talk to the people around you. You do not want to face them. You do not want to see for them to see how you're feeling. You do not want them to see that you are depressed, or you are sad. So what do? You escape and use social media. So when you're busy on your phone or your gadget, no one is going to bother you. Then there's also relevance. Social media starts to dominate a person's thoughts at the expense of other activities. You've even gone out to watch a movie, or you've gone out for dinner, but this person is on their phone throughout, yeah? So it means that is the most important thing for this person. Then there's also the issue of validation. There are people who use social media to get validation, and this validation is what keeps them glued to social media. The number of likes that you've gotten, the number of positive comments that you get. Sometimes, remember, someone may complain about something that you have done. Let's assume that you put a tattoo, and at home, everyone is complaining that remove that tattoo, tattoos are bad. But on social media, when you posted it, everybody gave you likes and good comments and telling you how good you look. So what do? You keep on escaping to social media because you need that kind of validation. Oh, you look good, you look, you know. So all these positive comments keep you glued to, or keep you using social media. Then there's also the aspect of increased time spent on social media. If you find that you're spending a considerable amount of time on social media at the expense of other activities, then that one you should know that you're dependent on social media. Ask yourself, how much time do you spend on social media? So just look at today only. Since you woke up, how much time have you spent on social media? Is it minutes? Is it hours? Yeah. So you can be able to tell whether you've become dependent or not based on your answer. Anxiety symptoms when they cannot access social media sites is also another factor to show that you're dependent. Have you ever left your phone at home? I believe most of you have said yes. The kind of anxiety you go through when you leave your phone at home is immense. Yeah. Why is it that long time ago people didn't have these phones and life would continue? Why is it that now if you leave your phone at home or if you lose your phone, yeah, it presents a lot of anxiety in your life that you cannot settle until you get your phone? Then conflicts in real life. So you find that when social media is used excessively, it can affect relationships with spouses, with partners, with friends, with family, with neighbors, with colleagues, with people around you. Yeah, either because you've forgotten something that you were to do, so you've let people down, or you've done something and you've not done it well because you are busy on your phone. So you find that it presents a lot of conflicts in real life. Sometimes we've had cases where people have even resorted to end their relationships because of such conflicts. And if you dig deeper to find what was the real issue, you are told that this person spends a lot of time on their phone. It's like they are married to the phone. In fact, there are people who even sleep with their phones under their pillows. Yeah, there are people who sleep with their earphones on. So at what point do you communicate with your partner if that is what you do most of the time? So look at this list and tick the one that applies to you. If at least 4 of them apply, then know that you are dependent on social media and that you should do something about it. Next slide, please. Now, for you now to be diagnosed as being a social media addict, what are some of the things that are looked at to be able to determine that? Salience. So social media becomes the most important part in your life. Even if you're in the bathroom showering, you go with your phone. Even if it doesn't matter where you are going, you're always with your phone. There are people who even when they're in church, you see them using their phones, and probably they are texting or responding to something or checking whether somebody has liked something that they posted. Yeah. Then there's also the aspect of mood modification. So a person uses social media as a means of escape because it makes them feel good. When you don't want to interact with the people around you for one reason or another, either because you want to mask how you're feeling, you don't want to socialize with people around you because of you're feeling maybe inferior or you have low self-esteem, you may find that you're using social media more. Then we also have tolerance. Maybe when you initially started, you are maybe on one social media platform, like the ones I've just listed. But with the time, you find that you're in all of them. So how much time do you allocate for each? If you find that the time allocation has been increasing as the days go by, then just know that you've developed what we call tolerance. You need more of it to be able to experience that good feeling that it gives you whenever you use social media. Then there's also withdrawal. You experience unpleasant feelings or physical sensations when you are unable to use your phone or you are unable to access a social media site. You will find people climbing even trees when they go to areas where the network is poor, just because they want to check, or they want to tweet, or they want to see whether somebody liked something that they had posted, or they want to see what people have said about them, or just about something in general. So you experience symptoms of withdrawal similar to somebody who is addicted to alcohol or drugs. Then there's the issue of conflict. So social media causes conflict in interpersonal dynamics, loses desire to participate in other activities, and this becomes quite pervasive. You've gone out, you've decided to go on a road trip, but this person is on their phone throughout. So even enjoying that road trip becomes difficult because you're going in silence. The person you are to talk to is on phone throughout, or you find that both of you are in silence because you're on your phones. So you find that at the end of the day, it brings a lot of conflict. Or you've gone up country to visit grandma and grandpa, and you find that after exchanging pleasantries, everyone is sitting there and everyone removes their phone. So the grandparents are left there, or your parents are left there wondering, okay, everyone seems to be busy here on their phones, so they don't have anyone to talk to. So it's as if you didn't even go to, you shouldn't even have gone to visit them because you're just on your phone. So these things tend to cause a lot of conflict. Then there's the issue of relapse, the tendency for previously affected individuals to revert to previous patterns of excess social media use. Maybe you've decided that I don't want to be on social media so much, I want to stop. Then something just happens and you find yourself going back. And when you go back, you use it even more than the way you were using it before. So that means that you have relapsed and gone back to your old ways of using it. So these 6 criteria will make you determine whether you are a social media addict or not. Next slide, please. So these are just some images to depict just what I've been saying. You can see children in a playground. Instead of playing, they're busy on their phones. There's a mother with a child there, also busy on her phone. You wonder what time she has to attend to this child. You can see friends who are out for coffee, but each person is on their phone. And then the image with the 2 people who are out on probably a date. I was told today by someone who is about 20 years old that actually this is how dates are done nowadays. You go out on a date and you communicate via phone, and yet you're sitting at the same table. And to this person, this is so normal, yeah? But to the rest of us who don't see this as normal, this is quite strange because 2 people cannot sit at a table and they're communicating via their phones instead of communicating to each other, talking to each other. But I'm told that with youngsters, this is something that is very common, so it is us who are finding it abnormal. Then there's the other image where the person is supposed to be eating but is busy on their phone. So that also affects people quite a lot because people develop certain eating habits that are either dangerous to their health or because they spend so much time, they're not conscious of what they're eating. Sometimes they may even end up not eating that food because of the interest in social media. Next slide. So these are just some models to help us understand social media addiction. And we are going to look at each one of them. So when we talk about the cognitive model, as a mental health worker, when you're looking at cognitive behavior model, you're looking at how thoughts affect behavior. Yeah. So in this aspect, we are going to use the Albert Ellis ABC model that looks at how your behavior is affected by how you feel and also how you think. So people increase their use of social media when they are in either unfamiliar environments or even in awkward situations. Sometimes you may be asked a question or you don't want to answer certain questions. So what do? You take out your phone and you behave as if you're busy on your phone so that you're not asked certain things either by your spouse or by friends or even by colleagues. So this is a model that is used a lot by mental health workers to be able to determine the level of addiction and also how to help people who engage in such. Then there's also the social skill model and the social cognitive model. This is borrowed from Albert Bandura, who talked about modeling. People tend to do things that they see through observation. A child who does not know how to talk will pick your phone and put it on the ear because that's what they see you doing, and they will mumble their own things because that is what they see. Yeah. So people tend to model after others. People tend to do things because others are doing them. It's fashionable to be on some of these platforms because your friends will be asking you, hey, you mean you're not on Snapchat? Because if you're not on Snapchat, then it means that, you know, you're not moving with the times. You mean you're not on this particular site? You mean you're not on this, on Twitter? So you look like, you know, you're not moving with the times. So people want to be seen, to go with the times. People want to model after others. So the social skill model and social cognitive model is also, there are models that you can be able to use to be able to help people who are in addiction, social media addiction. Then there's also the learning theory, and this is borrowed from B.F. Skinner, who said that people engage in behaviors based on the reinforcements that they get. If you get positive reinforcement, it means that you'll continue engaging in that behavior. If I post a photo today and I get very good comments regarding that photo, it will encourage me to continue posting more. And I will be reading the comments happily, knowing that people are saying very good things about me. So I'll keep on posting more and more and more because of the kind of reinforcement that it has given me. But if it gives you negative reinforcement, then that behavior becomes extinct. You're likely not to continue with that kind of behavior. So these are just a few theories that can be used in order to understand addiction. Next slide, please. So let's look at some of the positives and the negatives that social media plays as far as mental health is concerned. So let's look at the positive side. One, social media strengthens connections. I'm able to connect even with my sister who lives out of the country, with my friend, with my colleagues who are not in the same environment as I am. So it tends to strengthen connections. Probably you've been able to connect with the people you were in school with 10, 15, 20 years ago. And then also it eases anxiety. Maybe there's some information that you're looking for. When you find it, it will ease your anxiety. Yeah. Then it also provides information. Maybe you are researching on something. So when you find the answers to what you're looking for, then you're able to use that information. Then it also promotes worthwhile causes. There are very many activities that are happening that are posted on social media, activities that touch on maybe human rights, activities that touch on charity work. So you're able to also engage in these activities or know about these activities based on what has been posted. Then it's also an outlet for your creativity. We've known that there are very many artists who and now we know based on what we have seen on social media. For example, I can give an example of this artist called Flaco. Flaco does comedy. He depicts himself as the son, the mother, the father, and he's very funny. And within no time, he has become recognized as one of the very upcoming comedians. And there are very many creative things that people can also be able to post to create jobs for themselves, to make themselves known. We've known painters, artists who have been able to post very good paintings and people have been able to access them. We've known people who have made very good furniture and posted them, you know, and the rest of us have been looking for them, asking, where can I get this? Where can I get that? There are people also selling their wares online. So it has also created job opportunities. But when it comes to the negative side, you find that it brings in inadequacy about your life, because if my friends keep posting on how they have gone for holidays, on the kind of restaurants they are going to. And with my life, I can't afford, with my income, I can't afford such kind of a lifestyle. So I'll start feeling inadequate. I'll start asking myself a lot of questions. Yeah. What did I go wrong? Why was I born in such a family, And you find that especially for teenagers, this is a big deal to them, and they keep pushing their parents, take us to this. Why is it that we don't go for holiday in such places? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? And this is not just for teenagers alone, even adults. We find people spending their salaries, extravagantly because they want to be like others. Then there's also fear of missing out. So fear of missing out actually is the key thing that drives people to social media. You don't want to be seen to miss out. You also want to be seen that you can also, you also know these things and you also belong somewhere, yeah? Then there's also the issue of depression and anxiety. Sometimes social media brings in a lot of depression, yes, brings in a lot of anxiety based on on your experiences using social media. There are times it makes you sad based on the postings that you read. It could be about yourself or about others. There are times you post something and people comment negatively. So it also presents a lot of anxiety. Maybe you've made a nice dish, you've posted it, and you're seeing all these emojis of people vomiting and angry faces. And you're wondering, I had cooked such nice food and I've posted. Why are people writing such comments? So it also presents a lot of anxiety. Then there's also the issue of cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is actually the greatest negative effect on social media. And research has it that quite a large percentage of teens report being bullied on social media. And not just teens, look at celebrities who also experience a lot of cyberbullying. Look at people who are trolled on social media based on either what they did or didn't do or what people are assuming that they should have done. So cyberbullying has been known to spread hurtful rumors, lies, abuse, and these things leave everlasting scars in people. In fact, at Chiromo, the bulk of celebrities that we admit are people who have gone through a lot of cyberbullying, and as a result, they have become depressed. Yeah. Then there's also the issue of self-absorption, sharing endless selfies. There are people who share selfies at every opportunity. I'm now out of the bathroom. I'm now dressed up. I'm now cooking my food. I'm now eating. So basically, it is like you're following them. You know exactly what is happening at each point in their lives. And some of them also post selfies that are very private. So it's like you're entering their innermost thoughts, and social media can create unhealthy self-centeredness and distance you from real life connections because of the issue of self-absorption. Next slide, please. So this is a vicious cycle of unhealthy social media use. You experience negative emotions, and what do? You go to your social media platforms, and within no time, you also don't want to miss out. So fear of missing out makes you also continue posting and tweeting and doing all sorts of things. Some of those posts bring in negative comments, then they impact on you negatively. But because you also want to answer, or you want to now post different photos, so you keep on changing. Maybe this time you are in Mombasa, you posted that you're at the beach. Instead of people wishing you well while you're on holiday, they are looking at the bikini you're wearing or the swimming attire you're wearing, and they notice some things that you had not noticed before you posted. So if you get positive comments, you increase your social media use. Whether they're positive or negative, sometimes the use is still increased. Yeah, because people answer you negatively, you also answer back. And the negative emotions continue, and more social media use, and the cycle continues. So this becomes a vicious cycle. Next slide, please. So these are some of the signs that social media is impacting your mental health. it has made you to start isolating yourself. You're withdrawing from people. You keep to yourself. You don't want to interact with people. You're experiencing feelings of loneliness. And if I may just ask, how many of you have 500 friends and above on social media? I'm sure there are many of you, yeah? But how many of these friends are your real friends, yeah? So you find that sometimes you may have so many followers, you may have so many friends, but indeed you're quite lonely, because out of their 1,000 or 400 friends that you have, or followers that are following you, you cannot even pick one whom you can call a close friend. Yeah, these are just social media friends, and all they do is just like your posts or make nasty comments or even good comments, but having a real friend you don't have. And most of the time when we are taking history of patients, when it comes to social media, social history, they will tell you that I don't have friends, yeah, but I have many followers, I have many acquaintances, but I don't have real friends. So it presents with a lot of loneliness. Then depression also sets in because of the persistent sadness that you feel, the persistent need to want to belong, yet you are sort of not being accepted. So it also brings in issues of depression. Then the addiction aspect that I had elaborated earlier on also comes in. You cannot do without social media, you cannot do without your phone. It also brings issues of anxiety, sleeplessness. You can't sleep well because you keep on wondering, why did those people say those bad things about me? Or you're very happy that people are commenting, giving you good comments. So that happiness also makes you experience sleepless nights. Before you know it, you're suffering from insomnia because you've not been sleeping well for a long time. Then it also brings in what we call loss of reality. Social media sometimes can be a facade. It's not what is out there in social media, is not the real thing. Yeah, I may have eaten my ugali and sukuma wiki, but what I'm posting as having eaten is such a high-class meal, you know, from such a high-class restaurant, not depicting the true reality of what I've eaten or what I am. Maybe I'm posting like I'm this well-to-do person, yet I am struggling, I am not. So there's that loss of reality. So people are not themselves in social media. So when you look at all these signs, if you're experiencing 1 or 2 or even 3, just know that social media is impacting on your mental health and you need help. Next slide, please. So these are just some facts that I gathered on cyberbullying. And you can see that Facebook is leading, followed by kids who are being bullied online. You know, children, unless they are guided into some of these sites, they may go into these sites expecting people to praise them, people to compliment them the way they're complimented at home. So when they experience this kind of bullying, it impacts on them negatively to the extent that we have some children who have gone ahead and died by suicide or attempted suicide just because of bullying. They don't know how to deal with it. Then you also find that if you look at these facts, girls get more bullied than boys. I'm yet to establish why that is so. Maybe because girls, I don't know whether it's because girls like posting a lot compared to boys, and girls post pictures that sometimes are a bit intimate. Yeah. Then you also find that Twitter is also, people also experience bullying, cyberbullying on Twitter at over 30%. And then there are also suicides that are among youths that are related to bullying, and you can see that it's quite high. It's over 50%. So these are quite high rates. And remember, some of these youths do not talk about this to anyone. So they continue getting bullied over and over. And before you know it, they decide to attempt or even to go through with the whole process of killing themselves. So suicide has been rated to be very high among youths. especially because of bullying. Next slide. So these are just a few cases that I picked that social media has reported that has led to suicide. Some of these suicidal cases have been streamed live. Like in 2017, there was a 13-year-old who accidentally killed himself on Instagram. You know, this 13-year-old was trying to show people that when you want to kill yourself, this is what you do. Unfortunately, he died because he was doing it while he was in a room alone and there was no one to save him. Then there was also just this year, January, a boyfriend commits suicide in live video because the girlfriend married someone else. And this other person was a rich person. So you can imagine how this boy felt, and the only way out that he saw was to kill himself. And the reason why he did it live on video, according to even the suicide note that he left behind, is to show this girl that I did this because you left me, you know. Then we also have teens suicide playing out on Facebook Live, yeah. And there are many more cases that have happened on some of these social media sites. Next slide. But all is not gloom. There are also some positive social media use, yeah? Like people can share self-care tips and you can be able to learn from them, especially during the COVID period when it started in March. People were glued to social media a lot, and people really needed to get to interact with the world, because human beings are social beings. So people looked around for self-care tips. How do I take care of myself when I'm in isolation and things like that? And it impacted quite positively on very many people. Now, in social media, sometimes also you can be an example to others, yeah, by posting your story, a story that people can be able to learn from. It can also help you to lead a healthy lifestyle. Yeah, we have, at one point or another, if you have been trying to lose weight, maybe you've Googled, weight loss strategies, diets and things like that, healthy diets, healthy lifestyle. What do I do in order to attain a healthy lifestyle? Maybe you need to exercise and things like that. So social media has also some of its positive usage. Then encourage others to talk about mental health. It's important also when you're using social media, as a social media user, it is not just posting things that impact people negatively, but you can also use it to encourage others. You can also make a decision to pick positive things out of over the negative things. You can also be supportive to people. Like I know Chiromo has a Mind Fest that is coming up that's going to look at people's creativity, where mental illness is to be seen as not a disability. Yeah, the fact that you've been diagnosed with depression doesn't mean that that's a disability. Yeah, so social media can also be used to support people. Next slide. There's a lot of stigma in mental health, and it's important to mitigate this stigma. How do we mitigate this? Is by coming out to talk about it, coming out to say, yes, I'm a survivor of panic attacks. You know, I have struggled with self-injury. We have so many teenagers now who are engaging in self-harm. Yeah. So if this is something that is talked about over and over and over, then people who are engaging with this will see that actually there is help out there. I don't need to hide. I don't need to hide the fact that I have depression. I can go to my HR and say that I'm taking time off Wednesday afternoon. I'm going for my therapy session. I'm going to see my psychiatrist. I'm going to see this particular doctor, you know, so that we can be able to do away with stigma. But if we do not talk about it, then the stigma will still be there. Next slide. Even though the cases that I'm about to highlight are cases that are not very good cases, But these cases, when they were highlighted in social media, they really helped to increase awareness. There's this popular Swedish musician who died by suicide. And out of that, a lot of other musicians, a lot of other celebrities came out to talk about their struggles with mental illnesses. And the issue of suicide was discussed at length. And you see, such things help to create awareness. We have other people like Prince Harry, Sophie Turner, who have spoken candidly about their struggles with mental illnesses. In Kenya here, we also have just the other day on 3rd of October, OJ, who used to act in Tidy High, also came out and talked about his struggle with alcohol addiction and even depression. So some of these cases have also helped to create awareness as far as mental health is concerned. Next slide, please. So how social media can improve your health. It can provide an judgmental platform to talk about your day-to-day activities, what you did. It can give a voice to the silence. It also allows opportunities to connect with others. It also features role models that represent a variety of experiences. And also it's a reminder that you're not alone. Remember, these people who have talked about, they have come out to talk about their struggles. So just know that you're not alone if you're suffering from any of those mentioned or even not mentioned mental illnesses. Next slide. So how do you detach yourself from social media? Turn off your notifications. We have a lot of notifications that come through our phones. Turn them off, because when they're on, you're tempted to keep on checking on your phone. Limit yourself, limit your usage. You can be able to create time and say that I'll only use social media from this time to this time. If you are in several of them, you can also allocate on this particular one, I'll allocate this amount of time, a few minutes and this and that, so that you're not on social media throughout. It's also important to get a new hobby so that you stop having your phone throughout. You know, check in with friends and family, have a real conversation. Don't check in, but you're checking in through the phone. You can also make it a treat whereby you go to social media only when you really need to, and you consider it like, I've really treated myself, you know. The way you can buy yourself chocolate or something nice, you can do that. You can delete apps that you don't use. You can also go cold turkey. Just decide that this weekend, I'm not going to be on social media because I want to spend time with my partner, with my friend, with my colleagues. And most importantly, speak to someone. This webinar, there are many associations that are represented here. I'm sure you can find someone that you can be able to speak to if at all you're going through this kind of addiction. You can also speak to a religious person, you can speak to a friend, you can speak to someone who can be able to listen to you, because sometimes people just need someone who can be able to listen to them. Next slide. As I come to an end, I just want to say that the effect of social media on mental health depends on how it is used. Are you using it to help others, to help yourself, to advise, to support? How are you using it? So how you're using it also matters a lot, and it can impact on your mental health, either positively or negatively. Next slide. I just want to leave you with this quote, that healing takes time, but asking for help is a courageous step. So ask for help if at all you feel that you've become addicted or you're dependent on these social media sites, or if you think that they've affected your relationships with others, or they've impacted you in such a way that it has made you not to realize your goals. So healing takes time, but asking for help is a courageous step. So take that step and seek for help. Next slide. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this topic to you today. And I want to take this back to Dr. Koba to proceed with the next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Indeed, we are educated and some of us are healed along the way, and we hope that we can keep learning. And what I love is that there's positive and negatives. And I think we are not being told to beat ourselves for the many times we've used social media negatively, but we are being encouraged to ensure that if we have to be on social media, then it should be constructive. It should help us, not destroy us. And for me, the take-home message has been you schedule. You decide you don't have to have social media when you're seeing a patient or in the middle of a procedure. And you also need to be there for a purpose, not just to follow people and compare yourself with them. And you need to seek to be inspired, not to be jealous, not to feel bad about what is happening to other people. So thank you so much. And I hope that everyone is taking that home. We have quite a number of questions. And as we give our presenter a moment to breathe, I just want to ask Dr. Catherine Gitao about her experience, especially because social media, we see patients who have other mental illness. What has been the experience? Have we seen people who are suffering from anxiety or depression related to social media or addiction? And alongside that, to comment on whether her thoughts on social media addiction being listed as a mental health disorder. There's a lot of anxiety, depression, grandiose, and to some extent, narcissistic behavior. Just to comment on that, then we'll go back to our presenter. Dr. Catherine Gitao.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kwaba. Okay, definitely I have come across patients who have addiction to social media, and it becomes very difficult to get to a place where you're going to agree on reducing the time for some patients, especially if they have a comorbid mental illness. So for most patients I've seen who have depression or anxiety, they use social media sort of to deal with some of these symptoms, and therefore telling them to reduce their social media time sometimes can be quite difficult. And that brings in the question of, is it that for those who have mental illnesses, then they're more likely to use social media more? Is excessive use of social media then a sign that something could be wrong? I had hoped that Jackie would touch on some of the psychological aspects of dealing, or rather interventions in dealing with social media addiction, which is there, and it has been identified as a disorder. Yes, the internet addiction is there, and social media being part of that. So there is that very thin line, but again, as Jackie has said, when you see that you're not having much control over the use of social media, if it is impairing your social interactions, your occupational, what you're supposed to be doing as in your occupation, if you're not able to meet it because of use of social media, if you're not able to control how long you'll be on the social media, then definitely you need to reach out for help. Then, of course, there's a issue of social media causing us to reduce our social interactions, and therefore making one feel more lonely, and the symptoms of depression setting in, as Jackie has mentioned. So social media in itself can lead to the mental illnesses, but also the mental illnesses can make one more likely to misuse or abuse or overindulge in the social media. So let us use the social media wisely, as we have been told, and when you feel you're not able to control it, then you need to seek help. I don't know if I've managed to address some of the issues you've asked me to address, Dr. Kwaba. But,
yes, you've done
yeah, that's what I can comment on that.
Thank you very much. Liz Kayemba, I would like you to tell us how we can combat and minimize negative impacts of social media. This may be just paraphrasing or a few thoughts that are different from what Jacqueline may have shared. And maybe tell us how personality type influences social media. Someone is referring to the big 5 personality types. How do these affect how one is influenced by social media?
Sorry, my mic is off. I think Jackie has talked quite well about the influences or the interventions for social media. I think for the personality types, I don't know if Prof is here with us today. Maybe he can help us to talk about that.
Liz is not maybe.
Prof is, pardon?
Yvonne Orlando, you want to go ahead?
Yes, I'm saying Prof is not there. Maybe I can mention a thing or two, particularly on the big 5. Okay. So with the big 5 personalities, the focus is on extroversion, consciousness, neuroticism, the openness. And studies on social media and the personality for the big 5 has actually highlighted that for people who are more extroverted will be found more accessing social media sites because they are more expressive. And also people who are neurotics. So they're suffering more from anxiety disorders, they're feeling low, the issues of depression, particularly those who are feeling helpless, and they need to get sort of strength from other people. So when you find every time the person is sharing their pain, every 2 minutes they're sharing their fears, or they're feeding off somebody else's fears, according to the study using the big 5, it shows they are well covered, the big 5 personalities. Those are neurotics, and you expect to see more of them on social media. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne, for sharing us with us that. I want to go back to Jacqueline. Someone asked, what is salience? They must have missed as you explained it. And as you explained that point of salience, someone would also like you to discuss and share mental health resources where people can seek help, especially in public settings. I saw on another Facebook page, someone asking information on where a friend with bipolar can access mental health care services. So that would be appreciated if you're able to discuss that. Jacqueline?
Okay, thank you very much. Salience simply means that it is the importance you attach to something. When social media becomes the most important thing in your life, basically, let me say, when your phone becomes the most important thing in your life, then that is salience, to the point that even if you're going to the bathroom, you're going with it. When you're sleeping, it's under your pillow. Some people even sleep holding their phones, you know, so that they don't miss a message that would be coming in. So salience basically means the importance that you attach to something. It takes precedence over every other thing, you know. That is why you find that there are people who even may cause an accident on the road simply because they have to, they were checking something on their phone, on social media, or responding to a text or reading something. So that is what basically salience means. Dr. Koba, what was the other question?
The other question was on resources where people can access mental health care instead of just asking on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There are very many places where you can access mental health care, both private and public. If I start with private, I can say Chiromo Mental Health Hospital is one of the places where you can be able to seek help. It's a purely psychiatric hospital, a level 5 hospital for that matter. So you can be able to get help from there. I think I had shared some contacts at the end. Then there are also other private institutions. I know there's Oasis. I know there are many others. There's Befriend Us Kenya that deals with suicidal cases, and many others, which I think we can be able to provide the list to be shared with the participants. Then we also have Ministry of Health, where we have mental health units in each district hospital, where you can be able to access that service, and many others. So I think we can provide the lists which can be posted to all the participants or to all the platforms where you can access them.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Back to Ms. Kayemba, I know you deal with a lot of youth and children, and someone is asking, how do we reduce too much social media indulgence and obsession among the youth? And maybe that you can also mention something about the therapies. I know as a clinical psychologist, you must be seeing some of these patients. Maybe what is the approach to therapy to those who are either addicted or have issues with the problematic phone use? Liz?
Yes, on the therapies that we use for children, we do a lot of behavioral therapies, but also addiction therapies, which are, of course, child-centered. And how do we limit phone use among children? I think even as we start introducing our children to the phones themselves, we should introduce them and give also limitations, to these phones, so that the addictions are not so high. One, we need to check the proper age and the level of responsibility of a child as you are giving them the phone. We find more and more parents give even a 6-year-old a phone, which of course is bound to bring its own unique problems. By the time that child is 10 or even earlier, the addiction is already there, is already present. At these ages, we find it is really not necessary to give a child a phone when they're still very young. When the children also observe, we have to note that children learn a lot by observing their parents and what they are doing. So if you spend also too much time on the phone, that's exactly what you're teaching your child. If you're not participating in the home as a parent should, then of course you're teaching your child not to be a part of the conversations in the home. They get more interest in their phones. So whatever it is, excuse me, whatever it is that you do as a parent, note that your children are also going to learn that same behavior. So by the time you're asking them why they're spending so much time on the phone, why they're not talking, why they're not communicative, then of course they will ask you probably the very same question. Why you don't communicate with them, or why you did not communicate with them. And even before you give the child the phone, note that even as they are babies, as per the picture that we saw from Jackie's presentation, we are not nurturing them 100%. When you're holding a baby, maybe you're breastfeeding and you're on your phone, we start losing our phones there. We start not bonding at that point. And of course, we are already teaching the lesson to the child about the phone being more important than them, or family time, or even focusing on conversation or finding out how their day is going and all that. So those are things as parents really we should be careful about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I think we want to hear from Yvonne Orlando again. And one of the concerns is that we need help for parents. What kind of help should we provide for parents? Because they say kids are really suffering, particularly at this time when they've been at home for a while. And in addition to that, maybe you could mention something about abusive comments, why people, for one reason or the other, can wake up and post very abusive comments. Is it that they are mentally unwell? Are they psychologically distressed? So kindly, Yvonne, you can tell us something. And I think for the one who had asked about social media addiction therapy in adolescents and young adults, it has been mentioned by Liz, but maybe you can also add if there's anything to add. Yvonne Orlando.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Koba. Let me start for the help for parents. I think it has been well captured already by Jacqueline and even Liz. When the question actually comes back to, what are the children using the social media for? Like right now, we know they need their tablets, they need their phones for classes, but you also know what time the classes are. So for parents, it's just more of a way to have a structure for when are they supposed to use it, when are they not supposed to use it. And it's more of a conversation, because if you force it or if you become authoritative on it, chances are you might miss out, because particularly for teenagers, they're very clever and they have their own ways of getting it. But if you have an open conversation on what you're worried about, the impact of that phone or the impact of being online throughout, the children can be able to understand. Again, just highlighting for them the impact that has been shown between frequent access to social media and the change in the brain chemistry, particularly for children less than 10 years. If you can talk to them and help them understand, you know, the more you stick on that tablet or you're always on some Instagram thing or TikTok for this matter, you're just going to be more of a danda. You bring it in a way that your child will understand. And as Liz said, your children will watch you. So if they realize, instead of hanging out with them, your focus is on your phone, they will do the same thing because they are learning, they are coping. So also having that open conversation at particular times when maybe we have family time, meal times, no phones, they will understand if you're also following it, not if you're the one breaking the rules. So have some sort of rules or guidelines on when to use them, and communicate this to your family or to your children. Don't bully them into it. On the second one, on abusive comments, I think we need to remember that people have different personalities and people are also going through different issues. There are people who, when their lives are going through a rough patch, they will come and vent on social media. When somebody else has wronged them, they look for somewhere else to vent, you know, who they feel is a safe space, who will not be able to vent back. Most of the people who are venting and are abusive online, they will not actually do it face to face. So they're hiding. So chances are this is somebody who also has an inferiority complex. This is somebody who's going through a painful process. They are stressed in their own lives, and venting is their way of dealing with this. But unfortunately, when they vent to somebody else who's also going through a difficult time, they literally drag that person down. We've heard of cases where somebody, because of being dumped, maybe by a partner, vents on social media and says the way that girl was bad and all this, and that I'm going to commit suicide. And people in social media actually encourage the suicide. And later we find that the person went ahead and actually ended up dying by suicide. Yet the person was venting to begin with. They were not looking to be pushed. But because they met people who also had issues to vent, and they found a soft target, they ended up venting on this person and leading to a catastrophe. So most of these people have issues, and they actually need therapy. Again, refer them. Right now, we are offering therapy. We have online sessions. If you realize your friend is venting too much on social media, becoming very aggressive and abusive, we are here. Refer them, we support them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yvonne, and thank you all our panelists for the questions. I wanted to, I don't know whether Super Tunje, I see she's part of us. I don't know whether Tunje is around, because I'd have wanted her to answer a question that is leans on general outside mental health, about whether social media has changed the way we create awareness, just to represent the non-mental health people, to see whether they have learned more about mental health since social media became very prevalent amongst us in terms of its use, and whether she thinks the government can control the use of social media. Dr. Super, are you there?
Open your video.
Koba,
Koba.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
Yes, I can just repeat it for you. So now the mental health people have been talking.
Yes,
And one of the
yes.
questions they have asked is whether social media has increased awareness to mental illness. So you standing outside of the mental health circle, do you think there is more mental health awareness because of social media? Then the other thing is, what are your thoughts about the government being able to control the use of social media?
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Indeed, hello, yeah. So about the increasing in awareness, you can say there's been in the last, if I can say, a few years, if not in this year specifically, where there's been an increase in the level of awareness. And to just give a good example is like this kind of webinars that we have been running through, and even at a county level. I know, like, for example, in my county hospital, we've had a series of webinars going on social media that has made mental health more in terms of increasing knowledge to the public and also even among healthcare workers. So I can say being not necessarily non-mental health, because sometimes we come across, as a practitioner, a pediatrician, we still come across some of the clients who may eventually have mental health illnesses. But to some extent, we have had an increased level of awareness, including in other forums, like, for example, in churches. I have seen where people have been discussing more mental health in such kind of platforms where previously maybe people were not aware about any kind of mental illness. Now, to the second part of whether the government could regulate the use of social media, I think actually, I'm aware, like in some countries where social media platforms are regulated. A good example, which I can say maybe I have experienced, like in countries like China, for example, even the kind of platforms that are allowed or registered in that country may be very different from what we have, because I remember some years back, unless maybe they have Facebook now, I don't think China had a Facebook, and they have actually some other platforms. Whether their platforms are better than what the rest of the world uses, I'm not sure about that. But I think if the government could help our youth, especially when it comes to regulation of what kind of platforms would be useful for us to use. But in terms of now to the individual, again, to the individual consumption or the use, it would have to be the responsibility at the level of the parents or the home or the family, and in other spaces. But I still think the government could be able to regulate what kind of platforms we have that are allowed to be used in our country. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very, very much. I see Dr. Diana Marion would like to contribute.
Back to you, Edith. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Tunjen. I see we have come to the top of the hour, and we don't want to take too much time of other people. So I would like first to bring Liz Kayemba to tell us shortly about the call center. Then I will not come back. I'll allow Diana Marion to mention something about the government, the role of government in controlling social media. And then Diana will invite our Secretary General, Dr. Kigondu, to close the meeting, and we will be done. I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening. I hope we have learned a lot. Thank you to our speaker. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you for everyone who took their time. So Dr. Liz Kayemba, you'd like to remind us what our call center is, then Dr. Marion, then Dr. Kigondu will close for us. Thank you.
Okay, we haven't talked about the call center in a bit. And so I thought we'd just remind ourselves again that we do have a call center that is for healthcare professionals. Our call center is run by healthcare professionals in mental health, run by nurses who have done mental health nursing, run by medical psychologists, run by a clinical psychologist, run by basically clinical officers who are in mental health. So I'm just giving this brief just so we know that these people understand us, understand the environment in which we work, and they're the people who can really help us work out whatever it is that we are going through from a mental health perspective. Now, the call center has a toll-free line which you can use to call. That means you don't pay for your call. We also have other lines that you can use to call us, and should you run out, or the person you refer run out of airtime, we'll be able to call you back and have a conversation. We don't limit the minutes we have a conversation with you. We talk to you until you are satisfied. And if your issue is needs more specialized care, there's a clinical psychologist always on call. We also have a psychiatrist on call. So please make use of the call center, make use of these numbers. Even if you just want to vent, to rant, to de-stress, we are here to support you for your mental health. Thank you, and welcome to the next person who is speaking.
Hello. So for government control, there are several acts of regulations that we can actually look at, but we have the Communication Act, but at the same time, we also have to look at what some other countries have done, especially the ones that are quite ahead of us when it comes to social media. So one of the very good countries I would like to give as an example is South Korea. Now, South Korea is actually a very independent country with very good healthcare, and actually their internet access per population is more than 92%. Like you're talking about a total population that has more than 92% access to internet. Their population is quite close to our Kenyan population. So if at all we are to look at it, is that they have very good control of what actually goes to social media in their country, what they are, especially their young ones. We've had our key speaker today speak about teenagers being actually the most affected and the young ones. So if you're talking about up to the population of around 39 or 49 years of age, then we can actually try to look at what South Korea has done to control social media. Number one, you do not want to gag the population, but at the same time, you also do not want to give them excess freedom to the point that you are not able to really manage such issues that arise, including mental health issues. You don't want to start talking, when you look at countries where the suicide rates are quite high, especially even on gaming. I was expecting gaming to be mentioned. There's the whole young people actually just doing online gaming. And it's one of the actually leading causes of suicide, especially in the most developed countries. So we are talking about the US and Europe and all that. It was not mentioned. I don't know if it's a clear platform for social media. I am not sure, but I know gaming is leading in terms of suicide, especially in the teenage and the early 20s. So when you look at today's world, so there are many things we can look at, and basically when it comes to government control, we have to be very specific on how we can advise. So as KMA and other organizations involved, we can actually advise government, and whatever is within the law, we can actually be able to help to control how social media affects us negatively. Positively, yes, but negatively, we have to find a way to reduce the negative effects. So other than that, so I would invite our SG, Dr. Kigondu. Thank you for being here. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Diana, and the team for this.
You are muted, Dr. Kigondu.
Oh, sorry, I was talking to myself. Oh, thank you very much, Diana, for the invitation and the team for this very, very good topic. As you are aware, social media and Kigondu are one and the same. And I'm taking some of the tips on how to come out of social media, but that might be difficult. I like the aspect of telling a story, and that has been my mantra: tell your story on social media to try to be a good example and to get others to learn from social media. Social media is a good thing, but again, we have seen the challenges it has faced. As Kenya Medical Association, we want to thank all of you who have attended this webinar. We will continue hosting more of them. It is part of our training program in this COVID-19 time. And we have our Thursday webinars, which are more on clinical practice. And we will see whether we will resume the Friday county edition, COVID editions. But let me take this opportunity to thank the panelists and all the participants for attending these webinars. Thank you very much. And with that, I think I can declare the meeting officially closed. Have a good day.
Thank you.